YouTube, how's it going? The Goat House is back. We got the Week 6 power rankings updated, headed into Week 6 of the NFL. Some changes here at the top. I really think big takeaway from these rankings is the top 9 teams in the NFL right now, top 9. They are in a whole different universe, whole different planet, whatever you want to call it, than the rest of the NFL. And I think everybody should be in agreement on which 9 teams those are right now, just based on what's happened, how those teams are playing. So I'm excited to break it down. Follow our Twitter, fan voted picks, players of the week. You guys vote for on there. A lot of NFL updates, news, trade deadline approaches, some rumors floating around. Check it out. Link in the comments, description. For anything that you're looking for, like, subscribe, turn notifications on. We got full coverage here, adding more. Here's the polls. This is offense. Added a third poll because we had some people looking for some players, so I'm trying to keep everybody happy here. We got defensive polls as well. Check it out. Power rankings. Week 6. Jaguars are still 32. A very winnable game against the Dolphins coming up in London. That's the Jaguars' second home. Do the players feel like that? I don't know, but the Jaguars are always playing there, so we'll see if they can take care of business. Tua Tagovailoa is back, but a winnable game for both sides there. Lions still 31. They just can't catch a break. They're very close. I mean, they did get outplayed most of the game against the Vikings, but they're in position to win the game. They clutched up at the end. They played pretty good defense in that game. They don't have a win, but they're very close to having multiple wins here. So now they got some injuries piling up. That's unfortunate, but they could figure it out at some point. Possible upset alert for the Bengals, for the Lions there. We'll see this week, but 30. I moved the Jets down one. Even they're holding on to that Titans win, but they still feel pretty bad right now. That Falcons game was bad, and they make a late comeback. But once again, feeling like maybe the worst team in football during that game. But they do have that win they're holding on to, so they can't be dead last. But they are 30. Texans move up. I just felt like the Jets are worse. I feel like that just really just based on what I'm watching. Which is most important, what I see on the field here, how teams are playing, are they going on a streak, are they winning, are they losing, their resumes, who they beat, who they lose to, all that plays a part. I think the most important is how teams are playing on the field. So I thought the Jets deserved to be below the Texans, and why the Texans end up moving up. Texans did lose. They did blow a comeback. They looked pretty good in that game for the most part against the Patriots, though. So that helped. If they just looked awful, maybe like the previous week against the Bills, if they did that again, there was no way I could have moved them up. So that's just how it ended up being. Dolphins down 2 spots. Yeah, they have not looked good. I mean, they were putting up a fight for a very small portion of the Buccaneers game. Then they end up being bad. It is the Buccaneers, but yeah, they won the first game of the year, and they've lost ever since. Yes, they've had some injuries, mainly at the quarterback position, but you can say that about almost every other team. Teams that are pretty healthy or seem to be winning, but yeah, it hasn't really gone good for the Dolphins here. But a must-win game against the Jacksonville Jaguars. Same for the Jaguars, winnable from either side here in London. Giants are going to stay put. They were putting up a fight with the Cowboys before they were absolutely depleted during that game. I don't think they would have won the game if they stayed healthy, but they've been putting up fights with teams. At the end of the day, that score doesn't show that with that Cowboys game. But, and they still have that win from the Saints last week. They're holding on to, which was impressive. So there was really no reason to move the Giants down here for me. 26, the Colts down 3 spots. A game they had against the Ravens. They outplayed the Ravens for most of that game, but that's kind of the good thing because the Ravens are a good team. But how do you not win that game? It's just things are going your way. I feel like we said that with the Colts in a game earlier this year, maybe a couple. Things kind of going your way. You have a big lead. I don't know if they've had big leads in the other games this year, but how do you not win that game? It just tells me the other team is just a lot better because things weren't going their way and they still just find a way to win. So that's really not a good look for the Colts. They have potential. We know this. They have potential to be much better than 26, but they got to pull these games off. They're down 3 spots to number 26. If they would have won that, the difference if they would have won that game, beating the Ravens, getting 2 in a row, that would have been a major difference. They probably would have been ahead of some 3-win teams if they won that game. I would actually say, I would guarantee that. They would have been a 2-win team. 2 in a row Colts would have been ahead of the 3-win, some 3-win teams, but instead things are heading south. It's a weird situation because I can't really figure out why they lost that game. They had some injuries. I mean, the Ravens have injuries too. Everyone's got injuries. I know the Colts are definitely one of the Colts and the Ravens are probably up there for the most crucial injuries. But again, everyone's got the injuries. They had some injuries concerned happen within the game. I guess that hurt them. People blaming Reich. The only thing I'm getting on Reich for was that end around flea flicker type play. That was the only thing. I still think Reich's a good coach. Didn't really seem like he fully trusts Wentz in the game, even though Wentz was playing okay. So I guess that's where you can blame him. Maybe you could say shame on him for not trusting Wentz a little more. They were about to get up 14-0 and Wentz held the ball, fumbled. So maybe he doesn't trust him because of that, early in the game. I don't know. I don't fully blame Reich. I'm definitely not blaming Wentz. I'm trying to figure out what to blame it on. It's a tough one. 25, the Falcons get a win against the Jets. I thought, they should be better than the Jets, but I thought it was not the best matchup, just looking at the matchup. But they clutched up. They allowed a comeback, but they played pretty well. Offense got going. Defense was playing well early. Defense should play well against that team, but they haven't been playing well. So, it's a better win than just beating the Jets, better than that label. So they're going to be up 3 spots at 25. 24, Washington's down 5 spots. They scored 22 on the Saints. That's really the only positive there. Defense still looks like a mess. They turned the ball over too much. Looked like they were in the game for a bit. I think as soon as that Hail Mary happened, it's like, couldn't say for sure, but it kind of felt like, the Saints are probably going to win this game. End up being the case. So I don't know how to fix Washington right now. I really don't. And it doesn't help that Fitzpatrick's out, but I really don't know what they can do to fix that defense and fix the situation they have going. They could put up a fight with a good chunk of teams, so it's not like it's a bad team here. It's just there's a lot of problems in there. It's not ideal, obviously. It's not ideal for a lot of these teams. Eagles up 2 spots. Impressive win against the Panthers. Comeback win. Darnold kind of helped them out a bit, but the Eagles did clutch up. Darius Slay clutching up. Jalen Hurts run the ball in there, but I don't know if there's anything from that game besides the win that's like, yes, this is something that you very much look forward to maybe beat other teams going forward. I don't really gather that from that game. But at the end of the day, it's a good comeback win. They beat the Panthers. It's a much-needed win. They get the momentum. They are up 2 spots, 23. Let's see if, they got the Buccaneers on Thursday. Buccaneers are pretty damn beat up. The Eagles are beat up too. It's the same thing. People will say, well, this team lost or this team's in trouble because they're beat up. And I'm not saying specifically people are saying this here. But then I look at the other team, I'm like, oh, they're beat up too. So I don't know if that excuse really rides. I think there are a few teams that are pretty healthy, and maybe that's why. It's not why they're winning. I think if teams are winning, it's because they're good, but it helps that they're healthier. So I don't know if you could definitely say this team would be a lot better if they were fully healthy. They would look a lot better. I think that's definitely accurate. Seeing a team at full strength, they could be better for sure. But I'm not really on anymore at this point because the unfortunate injuries across the NFL. I'm not going to sit here and say, well, that team only won because that team's hurt that much. Well, that team's hurt too. I don't know. So I'm not really. So I kind of caught myself there. I was like, oh, the Bucs are kind of beat up. The Eagles, maybe they catch a break. Right now, the Eagles are beat up too, and it's the same thing whether any way you look at it there. So it's just how it is in today's NFL. Steelers up 2 spots. A game I expected them to win, but Teddy Bridgewater ends up playing, so that makes it, I think, a little more of a valuable win for the Steelers here. They did allow a little bit of a comeback, so I do want the defense to tighten up for the whole game. I'm not really worried about that, but they get the much-needed win there. They're going to be up 2 spots and see if they can get going. They're going to play the Seahawks without Russell Wilson this week, but Geno Smith's a little sneaky, so Steelers going to get to go out there and take care of business. 21, the Vikings move up 1 spot. Very easily could have lost that game against the Lions, a game that you expect them to win, a game that you expect them to put away. So that win doesn't hold too much value, but they clutched up at the end and did something they normally can't really do. Even though Kirk Cousins seems to be able to get his team down the field for the most part and clutch up, it just seems like they can't close out games for the most part. So they were able to do something they have not been able to do there. And the defense is playing better, so those are the positive sides there. But, it's a game they should win. It's a game they really shouldn't almost choke away. They'll go up 1 spot. Patriots are almost in the same boat. They come back and win. I guess they overcome some sloppiness there and they win a game. the Texans were playing well. So, it doesn't really hold tremendous value there, but they win. It's a good comeback. They move up one spot to number 20. Broncos are going to be down 6 spots. They dropped 2 straight. Sloppy game against the Steelers. They almost came back and won if they just didn't play so poorly for a majority of that game. If they didn't get outplayed that badly for a majority of the game, then they could have won the game. But that just can't happen. That kind of plays a part. That's kind of looking like worse than the Broncos. That the last 2 weeks, it's kind of looking worse than what I've expected the Broncos. The first 3 weeks, very winnable games because who they play, but they were above expectations. And then people saying kind of going back down to normal. I don't know. They're not actually playing less than of what I thought than them lately. So that's not good. So they're down 6 spots. Definitely. I mean, another one of those teams needs to stay healthy, but it's almost every team here. Panthers down 7 spots. That was a bad one against the Eagles. They blew a comeback, and it's tough because I think, outside quarterback and offensive line play, I think everyone else played their part to win that game. So that's a tough part. They're at any given time, their defense can win them a game. Their weapons could help win them the game at any given time, but quarterback play, offensive line play kind of kept them out of it in this game, and that's huge pieces of a team there. So, turnovers hurt them in this game. It's a game that you should win going into it against the Eagles. The matchup even favored them because, what kind of defense they present, the blitz, and it was working. Hurts really couldn't do much. He had to dump it off, and it's a game they should win. Again, looking at the matchup going into it and how the game played out, and that's definitely a tough one. They dropped 2 in a row. Winnable game for both sides here. Panthers versus Vikings this week. I think that's going to be a pretty good game. It's a must-win for both teams. That could really turn seasons around, or kind of, if the Panthers lose 3 straight, then it's like, okay, it's not looking good here. So must win for both teams. It's a one that could really turn a season around, or back around in the Panthers' case. But they're down 7 spots to number 18. Not the best last 2 weeks here. 17, 49ers down 1 spot. It feels like they should be better than what their record shows. They did put up a fight with the Cardinals. I was actually not a fan. I thought Shanahan blew that game, which is kind of a rare sighting. I thought they should have ran the ball more. And I did not, that use check, whatever that was on 4th down, terrible. When Lance got stopped at the 1 centimeter line, I thought the 3rd down before that, poor decision to decide to pass the ball. And then you make better decisions on maybe a couple of those and not all of them, and you might win the game. I thought, they kind of had the right idea around running the ball and kind of wearing out the Cardinals, and they had a shot to win that game, couldn't pull it off. I know it's against only undefeated team left, but they're gonna have to get a good win here. They don't have they don't have a statement win yet. I'm sure they will get it. At the end of the day, they could end up better than 17. Another team that's pretty beat up, but it's at this point, it's like every team. I keep saying it's almost like every team is pretty damn beat up. 16, Seattle Seahawks. That Thursday game was it was kind of bad. It got interesting at the end, but majority of that game, I'm like, am I watching the Lions and the Jags? Teams down there at the bottom. That's literally what it felt like, because the offenses were able to move the ball, but then they were just getting stopped because of maybe a stupid play or a stupid play call decision, and it really wasn't because the defenses were playing good. Because the offenses were able to move the ball. I think it was mainly bad play calling and decision making in that game. It just was not. The teams didn't look like who we think the Rams and Seahawks should be in that game. Then Russell Wilson goes down. They're actually able to score more points with Geno Smith there. I think just the Rams adjusting. They struggled a little bit. Maybe a little better play calling because it was kind of like Geno's in there. Let's just let it rip. Let's just do whatever here. But the Seahawks, I don't know. I felt like there was a portion that, I don't know. That wasn't a good game for either team. But the Seahawks ended up on the losing end. But they're only going to move down 1 spot because it's just hard to move them down below the teams that are below them right now. So we'll see what happens. It sounds like Russell Wilson could be back a little sooner than the original takes or predictions there. We'll see. They can win some games with Geno Smith. Defense still a problem. But they're only going to be down 1 spot despite playing pretty damn poorly in that game, and almost kind of came back there. Chiefs down 3 spots. It's weird seeing the Chiefs down here, but this is definitely where they belong. This defense is It's the worst in football. I don't think it can get better where it's not the worst in football, but right now I don't know if there's any doubt that it's the worst in football. And I'm not worried about the offense. I mean, the offense is pretty hurt right now, so maybe we can worry a little bit about that situation, but I'm not really worried about Mahomes and company, them getting points, getting enough points. I'm worried about the defense. But again, the offensive injuries, I guess something to monitor here that could be a problem, but there's times where it feels like they have to score on every single or almost every single possession to win, and it's really not in, I guess, because the offense is actually almost capable of doing that. That looks pretty good, but the fact that they have to do that, it's not good. It's not good right now. So things not looking good for the Chiefs. I wouldn't really argue with you too much at all if you're predicting the Chiefs to kind of get back on track by the end of the year. If you think they'll be a top 10, top 8. I said in the beginning of the video the top 9 teams are like far and away in a different category than 10 through 32. If you think the Chiefs can get back in that category, I'm not really going to argue with you. I do worry about their defense to get back in that category, but again, that's really not this video. It's not predictions. This is where they're at right now. So they're down 3 spots there after another disappointing outing. They can't really get a streak going here. Bengals going to stay put. Mixture of things on why they stay put. Other teams just had to go. It just felt like they needed to go below the Bengals. They needed to move down, so they kind of got some help there. The Chiefs just had to move down. I thought other teams, the way they're playing, had to move down. But a winnable game for the Bengals. It's kind of weird. Like maybe there's people out there that will say the Bengals should have won that game. If the Packers lost, I think there would have been a lot of people saying the same thing. The Packers should have won that game. But back to the Bengals, they should have won the game that didn't. So that's it hurts a little bit. But put up a fight with a good team. Defense clutched up in the red zone, even though they did give up a lot of yards. Just some sloppy mistakes, which was not good. But the Bengals are playing some good ball overall. They got some help with other teams losing that helped them not move down. But if they would have just got destroyed, it'd have been pretty hard to kind of keep them in the same spot. But they put up a fight with the Packers. They had a shot to win that game, so I didn't really see any reason to move them. Raiders down 4 spots. Based on that game, I kind of want to move. It's like you feel like you want to move them down more. They deserve to move down more because they just got worked by the Bears. The Bears worked them on the ground. The Bears didn't have to pass a lot. I think when the Bears needed to make crucial plays in the passing game, I think they did. They just didn't. That kind of sums it up. They didn't really have to pass the ball to win. That sums everything up. The Bears just worked the Raiders. They didn't need the full Bears. It's just crazy to say that, but it's true. The Bears didn't need the full Bears to beat the Raiders up. Pretty wild for the Raiders part there. So it almost feels like they're 2-game losing streak. They should move down more in this. It's just tough to what teams below them do they deserve to be? You probably can argue some, but so I 4 spots is kind of a lot too. So I moved them down 4 spots. Looks like you can all of a sudden run the ball on the Raiders. In the offense, what's going on with the offense? When they give up pressure on Carr, which is likely at this point, he's not playing too good. So in the whole Gruden situation, maybe that's out of the way. No more distractions. So we'll see. It's anybody's guess is as good as mine is how the Raiders will, I guess, answer to that. Like, will they be better because there's no distractions? And maybe they're harder to game plan for now because everyone knows what type of offense Gruden runs. What his play calling is like. He's been around forever. So could the game plan factor come back in their favor? Could they be like, that's the guy, that was their leader, that was their guy they've been prepared for so long. So could that hurt them? Could they all be down? Your guess is as good as mine, for sure. So we'll just have to wait and see there. But that has nothing really to do with their ranking at all. So they're down 4 spots to number 13. 12, the Bears, we just talked about them. They're up whopping 8 spots. They're getting some quality wins in now. They got a win on the Bengals, which I thought, the score won't show up, but I thought they completely outplayed the Bengals, who seem like a pretty good team, and they completely outplayed the Raiders. So that's looking pretty good for the Chicago Bears. Their defense looking real good right now, kind of what we expected. They've been a little underwhelming in portions of last couple of years, maybe before that elite season, after the elite season, I should say. They looked really good against the Raiders. Without David Montgomery, they pound the football very well. They made throws when they needed to. They didn't really need to use the passing game a whole lot, and that's actually a good sign. I guess if you want to take away a negative from that, it's not a negative. It's just kind of a question. when they have to pass the ball a lot, how will they be? I guess it's a question mark. We'll wait and see. They play the Packers this week. Should be a fun game. I think they're more suited to compete with the Packers right now, actually. I think the Bears have had better overall rosters in the past, but I think they're, based on the matchup, based on how those teams, match up with each other, how they look, and they're better equipped to compete with them right now. We'll see. Defense is playing great. They're getting a lot of pressure. I think Khalil Mack, Robert Quinn is tied second with the Panthers in terms of duo sacks for your starting duo. So that's pretty impressive. It's another quality win. They're up 8 spots to number 12. I know people really don't want to believe in them, and you may predict them to not finish 12, but that's really not what this video is. They're playing pretty good ball right now. They're up to number 12, 8 spots. 8 spots a lot for week 6. Saints up 7. I want to show the next team too, because the next team is in the same exact boat as the Saints. I'm probably going to have complainers about these teams. I just know how the comments work. Titans and the Saints are in the same exact boat. And remember, I said it multiple times, the top 9 are in, I've done these power ranks for a long time. That usually happens where a top 8, 7, 9, 12, whatever, are in a different category. I think it's the biggest one ever. Top 9 are in a whole different category. Like, it's so far than 10 through 32. So keep that in mind. But the Saints and Titans are in the same boat. And I think we'll have complainers here because I think they'll look at, the Saints beat Washington football team. And they move up 7 spots. The Titans beat the Jags. They move up 7 spots. Both those teams lost to winless New York teams the week before, and just another week later, they're up 7 spots. I can understand that. And I'm not thrilled about these teams. I still, both these teams, I thought I'd feel a little better about if I had to predict before the season. I think I would have predicted by week 6, I would feel a little better about these teams than where they're at. Not really ranking, but just more confidence with them. And I'm not super confident. I'm not really super thrilled about these teams. The Saints is just kind of back and forth, inconsistent. Titans just feel different. I guess receivers getting hurt. Tannehill not playing super well under pressure. There's more pressure. And with that said, do these teams feel like number 10 team, a number 11 team? And they probably don't right now. But this is why they're ranked here. It's mainly because what other teams did. Find me another team that is below them that deserved to be ranked ahead of them right now. Those teams are coming up, besides the Bears. Those teams are coming off losses. We got, Titans, Saints, Bears. Those in a row. People probably don't feel like those teams belong in this rank, but they really do at this point of the season on what just happened. All those other teams suffered pretty bad losses. What they presented on the field, what happened, how they lost. They lost. Those teams won. So it was, that's really why they're in this spot. And it kind of ended up being weird because some of those teams lost. The Raiders. Was I going to keep the Raiders up there for that presentation against the Bears? No, they need to move down. The Bengals were the only team that I said, I'm not really, I'm okay with that loss, the way they played. But when am I going to move them up 4 spots? So you got to understand how everything works around that. So that's why Titans, Saints, do they really feel like a number 10, number 11 team right now? Yeah, they really don't, but it's where they belong right now, mainly based on the other teams, what they've done, and then these teams coming off, even though who they played, pretty solid wins. So I do think those 2 teams are in the same boat. Like I said, top 9 teams in a whole different other planet right now. The Browns are coming off a loss, and that's why they moved down. But the top 9 teams they're legit right now. That's a really good team. So coming off a loss will get you down, at the bottom of that group of elite teams. We'll call them that. So they're going to be down 3 spots. It's just a tough one. They very well could have won that game. They ran the ball pretty well. They threw the ball pretty well as well. I guess they couldn't really clutch up in the end when they needed to, but they were pretty clutch throughout that game. Defense got a little beat up, but again, everybody across the NFL for the most part is pretty beat up. They gave up a little more on defense than I would expected and would have liked them to. So very good team still, but they're at number 9 right now. 8, the Ravens move up 2 spots, coming off another win. What do you make of that Colts game, man? That game was ridiculous. Most of the game they got outplayed. You see that they're sloppy. Lamar's put the ball on the ground a little bit. Defense missed tackles everywhere. They don't really have, they can't really trust players outside of Marlon Humphrey and Odafe Away, actually a raw rookie. outside of that, seems like a lot of rotation because you can't really trust this player that you would expect to trust on third. Patrick Queen's a good example. You got to take him off the field. So it looks like they're a lot more vulnerable than they were in the past on defense. Missing tackles, they give up a lot more on the ground. They give up a bit more in the air. Missing Marcus Peters, Sean Elliott will do that. But again, a lot of teams are unhealthy right now. So that's kind of when you make a majority of that game that they're more beatable than they were in the past. But how that game ended and how dominant they were, especially offensively down the stretch, it just shows how good of a football, how dangerous a football team they are. Lamar Jackson, how good he is and how he can, you're never safe when you're playing Lamar Jackson. You're never safe when you're playing against Harbaugh, his team. So it's a dangerous team. And why they ultimately came back and won that game is because they were just playing simple better than the Colts. Because you have those sloppy mistakes and you still do all that and that tempo of that offense too. So dangerous. So Ravens are a team that definitely can beat anybody. They're a dangerous team here. So they're up 2 spots to number 8 here after that very entertaining game and a ridiculous comeback there. Lamar Jackson, that was an elite MVP type performance there in the second half. It's absolutely ridiculous. 7 to Cowboys. It's tough not to move it's when you get in the top teams, it's tough, to move these teams up and down when they're winning, and the Cowboys are going to stay put. But I love that, it feels like their defense is better for sure, and they're flying around the field. But I love that they can beat you on offense with running the ball, passing the ball with both. The pass opens up the run, the runs open up the pass. It's ridiculous out there. The Cowboys are a very, very dangerous team right now. They're going to stay put at 7. It's just the other teams maybe did a little bit more, or I didn't feel they needed to move. I do have some teams that won moving down here, which I know I have some complainers on that. But Packers are going to be down 1 spot, and they beat the Bengals. They're really not down because of themselves at all, because what they did, I know it was a sloppy game. And I'll say this, if they would have went out and took care of business, because they were marching down the field, and if they would have converted in the red zone and just, every time like they should have, made field goals and just dominated that game, there is no way in hell I could have moved them down. I probably would have moved them up, So when you start splitting hairs with these top teams, if they would have played like that, so if you had to nitpick, I wish they would execute in the red zone a little more. I wish they would have made their field goals and just not made that close of a game that needed to be. But at the end of the day, it's really not why they're moving down. There's another team that I absolutely had to move up. And the Packers are in the same boat as the Rams. The Rams, actually, I'm not really thrilled with the way how they played. I liked how they played in the second half. They clutched up. The play calling was better. The first half, though, Stafford missing throws, bad interception, very bad play calling. The defense is looking a lot worse than it's been in the past. Again, a chunk of that game I talked about, it felt like I wasn't watching Rams Seahawks. It felt like I was watching almost Lions Jags, like example. So if the Rams, again, like the Packers, if the Rams would have went out and just dominated that game, looked good, or not even dominate, just look good and just put the Seahawks away like they should, it would have been extremely, extremely hard to move them down. But it made it a little easier. They're a little sloppy, but again, why the Rams, the Packers moved down 1 spot is because I absolutely just have to move up the LA Chargers. I love what they're showing me on the field. This offense looks like maybe the best in football. It's dangerous. They can beat you in multiple different ways. Run, pass, deep ball, underneath, quarterback running. They can beat you on 4th downs. I love that. That plays a big part, how they're just so dangerous on just converting. They're never out of it. You got to stop them more than you got to stop the other teams. What I really worry about is the run defense. We'll see if it changes when Kenneth Murray comes back. But the run defense, I do really worry about. Pass defense, I'm not. It makes it harder for them when the whole defense has to really try to use extra guys to stop the run. But they make plays in the back end. I'm not really worried about them. But the way the Chargers are beating, you beat a team like the Browns, who were ranked at 6. Resume matters. Resume to me matters. You go and beat a team like that, the Browns number 6, and you score that many points, look like the best offense in football. Have been able to come back, been able to win in different ways. I think you belong in the top 4 here. So I had to move the Chargers up. Result of the Rams, Packers going down. 3, another one. The Buccaneers I moved down. They had a dominant win against the Dolphins, but I had to move the Bills up. The Bills got to go up. With that resume win, you beating the Chiefs, you dominate the Chiefs. You look damn good on both sides of the ball. You look like the very best team in the AFC. You could argue the best team in football. You can definitely argue that. So I felt like the Bills had to be number 2 here. And they're more of on a streak, obviously, compared to the Bucks as well, because just add another one to the streak. Like I said, if you keep on streaking and then you have good wins in there, that'll help you in the end. It's exactly what happened here, because the Bills only lost their first game of the year, so which I think was definitely a fluke game. And the Bills are looking damn good. But it'd be impossible to move down. The Cardinals right now they remain undefeated. The Niners could have beat them in that game. If they would have ran a little bit more, if they would have converted right on the goal line, they would have converted a couple more fourth downs, they could have won the game. But that's credit to the Cardinals defense. You can run the ball in the Cardinals defense, but when it's short yardage, when it's time to clutch up, when it's goal line, when it's red zone, they make plays. They're smart. They know what's going to come at them. In the offense, did enough. The 49ers may have figured some things how to slow down that offense. So we'll see. It's going to be really hard and they play the Browns this week. I just remember that 1 versus 9. 1 versus 9. We'll see who's missing for the Browns. The Cardinals have actually been one of the more healthy teams for sure. But they're mainly undefeated number one because they're very good and tough to game plan for. But they're going to lose at some point. Tough game against the Browns this week. We'll see. That's going to be a fun game. We'll see what happens in that one. But yeah, impossible to move the Cardinals down, move a team like the Bills, Chargers up with what they're playing. Even though I think there's a lot of teams deserving of being number one, it almost feels like. And like I said, those top 9 teams feel elite to me. But yeah, Cardinals remain undefeated, playing some good football, beating some tough teams. They are number one still. Shouldn't really be a surprise. But that wraps it up for the Week 6 Power Rankings. Excited about some big-time games this week. Again, a little bit of a schedule change this week. We usually do pick'ems, our weekly pick'ems, Tuesday nights. Unfortunately, it's going to have to be Wednesday night this week because somebody can't make it. We just wanted to wait till they can make it. I think it won't hurt anybody for Wednesday night. So that's just for this week. So we always got you updated on our Twitter, but videos are still on their way. We got you covered, always adding more as well. Like, subscribe, turn notifications on. Follow our Twitter. A lot of polls on there, keeping you guys involved, and a lot of NFL updates on there. A lot going on, especially as we get a little closer to trade deadline as well. So check that out, link in description, comments. It's going to do it for this one, though. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.